You're gold.
Oh, my bad. I thought we were doing an intro. Anywho, everyone, welcome once again. This is Jorge from TeamJVS. We are going to be doing our episode 6 finale of Miss Marvel. And today I have the pleasure of having two of my smartest comic book people with me. And there we go. We got Jedi Mike. We got Sam as always. But um, let's just jump right into this one because this just came out today, and I'll let you guys start. So we'll start with you, Mike. Like, what did you think of episode 6?
Oh my God, it's happening. It's happening. It's happening. It's happening.
Finally.
Like, I'm like Steve Carell from The Office. No, stay calm. It's happening. Everybody calm down. No, I literally was watching this after I watched very good episode of Westworld. I'm like, okay, let me go
Yes,
get some
yes.
rest. Then it's like, okay, let me get in. Let me go watch Captain Miss Marvel, right? Go in here. And then here I am. It's like, what, 4 in the morning. And all of a sudden, it didn't have the moment, and you hear the X-Men theme song. I'm like, what? And I was like, I know, well, probably woke up my roommates. So I was like, yo, it's happening. It's happening. And like probably the best feeling I've had from Marvel in a very a very long time. I just came off a very, disappointing film and a couple of, medium okay, series and everything, but no, this was like one of the biggest step forwards for MCU they had in a very long time. Right. Even then, I still have questions, but still, it was on the right direction right before Comic-Con. Kevin Feige, you ain't
Yeah,
fooling nobody.
it's true.
That's awesome. How about you, Sam? What do you think about this?
So it's weird. Like, the show caught me by surprise. Off of the first two episodes, I loved the directing. I loved how Kamala and all of her friends, quote unquote, felt like teenagers. They didn't have any like tragic backstory. They didn't have any over exaggerated abilities or capabilities. Even down to Bruno, like he's smart, but he isn't like a super genius. The simplicity of it and how even she getting her costume, it was a really good episode. I think at the end of this episode complemented the rest of the season, whereas all the other Marvel shows that I've seen up until this point, this finale has let the season be degraded a little bit. Like they don't add this like, oh wow, that was really good. I think that Loki came the closest to me, but with this one, I was like, not only are you adding implications to the MCU, but this rounded out her story as a whole. So I think it's just a great episode, but it added to me the entirety of the whole series.
Yeah,
Mhm.
no, I think you said it best. Like this one, out of all the Disney type of shows that have come up, this one has probably been the most surprising to me. And I think, quite frankly, I knew the least amount about Miss Marvel. Um but yet the way that, and it could be the way that they directed it, and they wrote it, it just, you fell in love with all these characters, even minor characters like her brother, like, who at the end of the day, like, wouldn't play a huge part in any other show. Like, he had perfect, like, comedic timing and stuff. Like in this episode, when she actually reveals that she's Miss Marvel, like, the way her brother and dad reacted, like, I was cracking up. Like, that was just perfect. But no, I definitely agree with you. I think the simplicity of it kind of was alluring, and something that, that I kind of appreciated was the culture aspect of it.
Yes.
I thought
Yes.
it was something that Marvel, from my point of view, just did right.
Mm.
And just got me very, very intrigued. And it's nice that you don't see like the atypical, stereotypical, like, casting, I guess, where, oh, this is a villain and blah, like, it felt very nice and real. And I do agree. I think the way that they kind of rounded this out was so nice. I did appreciate how she ended up getting like her costume at the end. It almost went full circle, with like her dad talking to her in on top of like her outside of her window, her mom giving her, like basically the same, it looked like the same packaging that she got the bangle from. So I
Yeah.
don't know, if that was just something in the works, but it's like every little piece just really worked out for me on that one. But yeah, no, this one definitely hit it out the park, and especially with the ending, I was very, very happy. And just going through it though, like I'm trying to think, this episode probably had some of the most, I guess, action that we've seen in most of this series, other than maybe what episode was it, episode 4, when she met Red Dragon and all that, because that one had pretty cool
Yeah.
fight.
Yes.
Yeah.
But
And
this, in terms of like keeping the pace just nonstop almost, like I felt it was there. What were your guys' take on that?
well, see, and what they just show, suffer in the finale is what basically most of the MCU shows suffer. Where they gotta rush a lot of things in the finale and basically conclude in the 6 episode story, linear storyline that they have. And again, I'm saying if they added maybe 2 more episodes to this, they might have a more filling season. But to Sam's point, again, this is a thing where it could be a consistent issue where it's like what happened in the beginning of the season basically leaves the finale little to be desired. Because even then, I might talk about that moment again as the season as a whole. I obviously it could have been way better if they've kind of fleshed more things out, and amongst all the other problems that really had nothing really to do with the actress or anything like that. But one thing I do commend this show among others is that this show made me care about Kamala Khan after this series. Like now, I
Yeah.
actually care about this character because one thing I made, and I'm working on a video, I was talking about some of the issues that Marvel have been facing, in Phase 4, even coming off of Love and Thunder, is the fact that one, they have a lack of identity. This show has identity, right? And from the very first episode, you felt that this thing that made it so distinctive from all the other shows. To some of my friends saying this is one of their favorite shows of the Marvel Disney Plus, and I wouldn't argue with them about that because I can see why. However, I just wish that this show would got more of a backing on it, just because of like this character and this actress. Because again, it's one thing, as being in her first role that she jumped into this big shoes to fill, but at the same time, when you have a character that as instantly that you make me not only relatable but also just a likable character. It's like I care about what she is moving forward. The dynamics that you talk about, even in the family, the culture, like the scenes with her father, her brother, same with the name that she got from Miss Marvel, made perfect sense, and it was just organic. Nothing was it, and all the things that the show had against of it. People say talking about wokeness, representation, all those things. This show did not really hint at everything's organic, and also the things to the point where she's still learning as she's going with her her abilities, to a point where she didn't, like, even then at the end battle, not like she was fully able to the basically be all like, I don't know, go Super Saiyan and act like, wait, where'd you get all this power from? No, she got fullness awakening of her powers, but that not like she was overpowering anyone to a point that we see other characters in the same type of role with just lack of character development, yet just being OP as hell, and everything like that. No, she was a very well developed character throughout this whole season, and again, making me care about what she is in the next journey in the MCU, regardless of the X-Men connection. So yeah, regardless of that. So that's what I'm thinking, not because, oh, she's a mutant now, I care. No.
Yeah. No, I think that brings up a good point, because this one thing this show I felt did really well. It never felt forced. Like you never felt like you had to come out. Like it just came very easy. And I think it was a very accurate depiction of like if a teenager was to get superpowers, like dropping the kid, how they kind of like make fun of it, at the end with all like the little like Snapchat type of like reels that they were playing, where the little kid was like, "Did you drop me just because I was the first person, you saved," type of stuff. It's true, because I hate when some of these superhero shows, like, they something happens to them and instantly they're like an expert at
Right.
all their powers. And I thought this one, they built upon it very nicely. And even in the finale, like when she was fighting, or when Karen ended up throwing the truck, and she got it with her hands, and like was going. you could tell she was still struggling with it.
Right.
It wasn't something that came simple, and I think that those are some of those moments that it's like you're almost growing with her, and the way that they made it,
Right.
that's kind of how you felt. What do you think about that, Sam?
Yeah, she's as a whole, she's growing with you as her journey continues. To the point that honestly, when her character goes to the Marvels or whether they give her a second season, when when and if her friends or her family is in jeopardy or threatened, I will feel something. Like I will actually be hurting. I will actually be terrified because the way that they did this, they did to me what Homecoming should have done for Spider-Man. It should have
Mm.
been like, okay, Peter not only has he lost, his mother and his father, but he's poor, he's struggling, he's trying to fit in. Like nothing about the Peter Parker that we've seen from the MCU seems like it's been a real struggle up until the last movie. It
Because
took
that
the
was his
whole last
yes.
movie that he had to lose everything because I mean Peter won't not popular. Like it was like he wasn't like he said he was poor, but everything was fine because he was friends with Tony Stark. He was friends with the Avengers, so it wasn't a struggle like we've known. And it's not to say that Kamala's struggling, but it's believable her family connections. Like you said, bringing up with the brother, like I can believe that actually happened. I'm like, yeah, we already knew. We were trying to play it off for you, but
Yeah.
we love you
It's
though.
great.
Like
That was great.
like even when they did like the cheesy like montage of everybody talking about her on TikTok or whatever they were doing, like it's the stories.
Yeah.
I was like, you know what? I can believe New York doing that. I ain't gonna lie. And that's one of the things I loved about the original Tobey Maguire Spider-Man. When they were talking about Spider-Man and like who he is, like this,
He stinks, and I don't like him.
right? Like this is, unfortunately, I hate to say it, this is a better way of telling an organic, natural story of a hero. And I think, like you said, like down to the costume, how she got it, down to her name. Like I've made a connection with this character and the actual actors and actresses that are playing these respectful roles. Because down to even when they were sitting there fighting in the gym, I was like, oh, this is back to where she messed up here in the lab. So okay, got it. That's why they're doing this. You know what I'm saying? Like it's good directing. It's good writing to a fault, but it's really good directing. Like they understand the assignment. And I think when we start to talk about, and I left a reference to this earlier today. When we start to talk about the mutant side of this, oh my gosh. Like that's, if y'all have been waiting for us to talk about it, I am excited for us to talk about that because
Yes.
I'm like, Marvel, finally, The Rock has come
That
back.
comes.
Like I'm like, why did you not do this in WandaVision? Why did you not do this in Doctor Strange? Why did you not do this? You know what I'm saying? Like they've been putting it off for so long. Yeah. I'm like, bro, why now? And so I have some predictions, but I'm gonna wait until we start to go into that. But yeah, dude, I fell in love with her as a character. It's not to say that the show is perfect. I've seen some very good, superhero shows. First season, like the Flash first season, phenomenal.
Come on.
Daredevil first season, phenomenal. You know what I'm saying? Like there's some great superhero shows, but this is very different because this is simplistic, this is wholesome, but at the same time, it feels grounded and real. Whereas like they try to be so overly comedic and overly exaggeratory when it comes to like the powers and people catching on to the powers really quickly, that you lose off on the human element of connecting with them, and not off of charisma, but just naturally connecting with the individual. And I think that we connected with them, the actual other characters, as well as the main person, which is I think the most special thing, especially after looking at a show like Paper Girls. But
and what's funny is like it's weird that I felt Love and Thunder was more targeted to children than this was.
Oh god.
And this was actually more like a more mature show. What I mean by that is like, yes, it has the one thing that this show got like, oh, this is the demographic is targeted to like younger kids, but at the same time, there was jokes in here that made sense, that wasn't forced, that wasn't like that things that did not negate emotional moments you have in this episode to a point now this whole thing is irrelevant because you made it a joke. It wasn't
Right.
that. And this is what I'm like, I'm not understanding. Like these two different properties. One's a film. We got this a show that barely. I mean, I'm not saying barely nobody watched, but like in terms of like numbers, that equates to Love and Thunder. But this one did a better job in terms of story development, how letting things rest in terms of flow naturally, understanding awkwardness like in an organic way with characters. And like again, one now I'm just saying, just making sure you're letting a developed story live on its own and not just trying to force things just for a sake and then let it had its time. Yes, the finale was rushed, but that's just for a 6 episode structure that all these Disney Plus shows are in, which soon are about to be changed. Cause now they're about to go back to 9 episodes, I think, with the She-Hulk. So yeah. So again, they're going to go back and forth with how they're going to do this. But to me personally, with Amon, how she kind of carried this whole show, I just wish that again, I wish she had more of a backing where people be more aware of it. But again, she's gonna be in the movie soon, so it's like just only time will tell.
Those Disney books are gonna come either way because what's gonna happen is people are gonna watch the Marvels movie and be like, "Oh wow, like I want to know more about her," and they're gonna go right back to seeing this show,
Yeah.
and it'll work itself out. But there's something I want to talk about the Marvels, but I gotta wait
Me
till we
too.
get to
Yeah.
we gotta bring up the end credit scenes as a whole. But
Do you want to do the end credit scene first and then do the post? Because
Well, let's do that. Why don't because I everyone just wants to talk about the end credit scene and then the post. Let's just keep it simple. Before we jump into that, I guess for both of you guys, how would you rank this show? Let's go just do a simple 1 to 10. But then how would you rank it, in terms of all the other shows that have been on the Disney platform? So comparing it to Loki, comparing it to WandaVision, where would you put this one? And that's a toughie. And I won't go first on this one. So let's see. Let's put Mike. You seem very very inquisitive right now, so I'm gonna put you in the spot.
so okay, WandaVision for terms of if you've been in any sense of theater, that what they did episode by episode, like that's like acting 101. You know, um, I'm actually gonna put Miss Marvel at a third or fourth between
Okay.
and I think that's fair. Because it's weird because like I say I take episodes out of a few of them that make it like okay this is my favorite show, but really I just like that episode. You know what I mean? You know what I mean?
No, no, I'm
Um,
with you.
yeah, because like it's like something they did at the end of Falcon Winter Soldier with uh Elijah Bradley and no it's Isaiah Bradley.
yeah,
Um, that's the grandson, but what they did with him that got me in tears at the end. I was like I still cannot forget that moment. But just for me personally, and that is subjective. Um, but for her, I say I gotta put this at third or fourth between this and Loki.
Okay.
Um, yeah, because it to me it's just like every time when she's on screen, I like I said this before when you watch this like before you watch this season, like I don't see how anybody can watch this show and not when she's on screen you don't smile. Like,
Yeah.
and that's not me being biased in terms of like, oh, she's very like literally just her personality is so organic and someone like I went to high school with, someone I feel like I was in her shoes, even though I'm a man and now and like I'm not, a Pakistani female in Jersey, you know,
Yes.
and still it's relatable and something that the other shows really did not do. But I put it even higher because what WandaVision and this show has is identity. Like, that's why I put them almost close to that being probably third or second because, again, that first episode is almost like jump in the Spider Verse. Like it has like a thumbprint of like, hey, this is when you watch Miss Marvel, you know what you're watching. Like this,
yeah.
like the animation, the visual effects of it, the personality of it. That's why I felt like this show for me is probably at third or fourth. But ranking this entire season, though, I'm gonna give it probably I'm gonna probably give it maybe a 7. out of 10. Yeah.
No, that's good. No, that's. I mean, that's all good stuff. How about you, Sam? Where do you lie on this?
So it's interesting. For me, I'm looking at this like I look at a movie. If I take any of these properties, I'll pull them up real quick. If I take any of these, which of these would I start from beginning to end and just binge watch all over again right now? Like out of all these, which one would I go and watch? Not picking certain
Right.
episodes out, not going to a certain moment, but
Right.
which ones would I go from the very beginning all the way to the end? And that's how I'm going to rank this. So that might be skewed because there are some amazing moments in Falcon
Right.
and Winter Soldier.
Yeah.
The ending of Loki sets a very interesting precedent, and I love the personality and the vibrancy of Loki. I love Vincent D'Onofrio showing back up in Hawkeye. You know what I'm saying? Like, I love some of their witty banters. I love What If as a whole because, I just love that concept, right? But if I'm going to be real here, out of the ones that I would start from the very beginning to the end, this might be number one.
Yeah.
I'm not going to lie
Yeah.
to you.
Yeah.
Like, I can put this on right now, start from the beginning, and just go ahead and let it go play through. Like, I could say maybe second, it would be maybe Falcon and the Winter Soldier.
Soldier.
Then I would probably put Loki right after that because as much as I loved like episode 5 of Moon Knight, like everything else about it just did not flick for me. And with WandaVision, the sad thing about WandaVision, as cool as the concepts were, Doctor Strange and the Multiverse of Madness
Put a bad
destroyed
taste
that
in.
whole
Yeah.
thing for me because it was like, what was the point of WandaVision for Wanda not to learn anything? What was the
Yep.
whole concept
Yep.
behind doing this? You getting all these accolades and then you just reneging on the whole thing. And on top of that, with WandaVision, one thing that it should have done that this did,
Yeah. Thank you. Thank you.
the
Thank you.
mutation.
Yeah.
You know, I'm saying so. I right now my top 3 is Miss Marvel, Falcon and the Winter Soldier, then Loki, and then after that, I mean, you could say Hawkeye, I guess, but no, what if? I put what if after that. And unfortunately, I don't know that She-Hulk will do that for me. But again, I question Miss Marvel. If it's directed well, it could have a possibility. But the issue with She-Hulk that I'm having is the way that it looks. That CG better be looking crispy. Because if it ain't, dude, I'm gonna drag it like I'm dragging Paper Girls right now. But that's what I'm at. As far as a ranking, this is easy at 8.5 or 8 out of 10 as a season. Like I could really just watch this with anybody. I could go watch this with my wife. If my kids were old enough, I'd watch it with them. You know what I'm saying? Like I actually enjoyed it, and I didn't suspect that I would because they actually took the time to make me care. You know what I mean? Like not just cool, flashy moments. The only thing that they messed up with this show is the marketing. They didn't. They don't. They. I'm gonna say this. I'm gonna say it carefully. I don't really think that they took as much care and concern for Miss Marvel like they should have because they felt like, oh, okay, people have seen her in the games, they've seen her here or there, they know the connection. So I think that sculpted why her powers the way they are, that sculpted the marketing, like, oh, we're gonna hit this demographic, instead of just letting it just organically go and just letting it thrive. They didn't do that. They didn't care for that. And I think even something about the mutant part, which we'll get to, also leads me to believe they definitely didn't care because they changed something that we'll talk about.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You said marketing of that. I don't think they truly, much as they have faith in other properties. Like I honestly, they thought they're gonna finesse us with the whole thing with the one. Because now I'm changing. Like I like after what you said, I'm like changing my list because you're right. Because like it's conflicting. Because I never like when Hori asked that question, never thought of it that way. But it does, like looking back at it, it ruins your experience now when you know what the payoff is or lack thereof one. And it would have been so simple for that. It's not about like that was your first Disney Plus show to lead on and everything, record breaking numbers, but because we didn't know what to expect. And now here we are now with this show after 6 shows in, almost
Right.
6 shows in, and now we got to the point we can do this. I'm like,
right. And I was gonna ask you, Jorge, I guess, to turn it back on you too. which of these would you even want a second season for?
Good
Because that's a whole
question.
other
Good
thing.
question.
Like
No,
if you
so
pick,
for me, just jumping. So I'll go quickly. I would rank this whole season like an 8 out of 10
yeah,
easily.
Yeah.
yeah,
When it comes to these shows, I think what drives me right now is two things. Which ones, basically what you said, which one you can start from start to finish and enjoy it and not just take out little episodes. But I think when you look back on this, once this phase is over and you kind of see these characters, out of all these that have, all these shows that have happened, unless like Khan is in it becomes a predominant like bad guy per se, I think this show will be the only one that is an actual true stepping stone and will
right,
have a continuation of a story. Because you're right, like WandaVision was, when you look at it back then versus now, it's a letdown.
yeah,
You know, Hawkeye, I thought, they did a pretty good job with that one, but I don't think I would, I don't think I would see Hawkeye from start to finish again. There's some episodes that I definitely will see, but it's not like I would be clamoring to go see it. Loki was probably, another favorite of mine. But yeah, I think when you look at what these shows will do, I think the one that people will turn back to the most will be Miss Marvel. I think this one will have the most, I guess, replay after, the Marvels come out. This one will come back because I don't see many people talking about WandaVision now that Doctor Strange came out. And I kind of wonder moving forward, like how they're going to, you know, how they're going to introduce and see. And this was a perfect, like, when this happened in WandaVision, like that was the perfect time to introduce mutants into this, like or at least talking about it. So I think that was probably a big flop for on Disney's point of view. Um, and yeah, so we'll go from there. So I think that is, quickly what we all think. But let's just jump into what everyone wants to talk about, which is which ones do you guys want to go to first? After credit scene or straight up,
Let's.
post
I
credits?
think. I think after credit is easier. Just like okay, talk about that and then move on. But then the post credit is more of the grander.
No, let's
Yeah.
do it then.
Yeah.
So after credit, let's kick it off. So in terms of after credit scenes, what did you guys think about this one?
go ahead, Mike. You go first.
Um. So again, going to her like she's on her bed and no, in her costume, that same being a character like it is in the comics though. All of a sudden her bangles start acting up again, but it's different than it was before. And all of a sudden then she just like she transported, but then she hits her closet, and also who comes out is Captain Marvel,
Yeah.
Carol Danvers. But now and then she's looking around and looking like, where am I? In a new costume, by the way.
Mhm.
It looked like a more casual costume. I don't think that's I know
And
for a fact that's not the new costume.
Yes,
Um,
not a fan of the gloves, by the way. Not a fan of the
y-
gloves.
yeah, yeah. But yeah, but for a second, I'm thinking like, is this her? I'm like, no, because Kamala Khan, she does have ability to shapeshift, and everything like that. But no, this was the too much directing because she looked out and she's like, wait, where am I? And I'm like, I'm
right,
in this little no, I'm in this girl's room and she's a fan of me. Like, like so yeah, where yeah, and then I think that's where she is. She's somewhere in space. In the cosmos, whatever. And now she like, and then she just dipped. Like now, I don't know how that interaction is gonna be because again, we know the connection of her from a different dimension, but we just still don't know what's her connection to Captain Marvel personally. You know, like other than like not her being a fan for her, but her powers because it's just like the bangle itself in the comics is a way for it to transport. From one person to another. But that's what the other bangle was coming through. But because it didn't brought that in this episode, I'm still waiting to see where that connection because if y'all remember the Shang-Chi end credit scene when they're looking at the 10 rings. She
hmm
said it didn't recognize anything from this, cosmos, wherever like that. Now, if it would have made sense if she said, okay, this looks unfamiliar, but it does like there's some like things familiar from Kree, whatever. It's just something like that because there was a 10 Rings Easter egg in this series. So I'm like,
Yeah.
and Captain Marvel responded to 10 Rings, hey, where's this from? And it's a beacon to somewhere. We don't know where it is. So I think that's again another thread they're gonna have to tie up with that. But yeah, so I'm on board with it. Again, it was still like a WTF cliffhanger, but end off on a good note. 'Cause I'm like, if Brie Larson didn't show up, I'm like, that's a little bit missed opportunity.
Yeah.
Yeah, they all these shows they have to have like some big cameo. I personally would have opted, especially when she was kind of like on the light post. If she kind of looked to the side, she sees like something like crawling on the walls and like slipping through, and he kind of stops and like, hey, what are you doing up there? And that was Spider Man. You know what I'm saying? Like, I feel like that would have been a doper cameo, even if they didn't have Tom Holland like face. Like, I think that would have been really cool because they're really
Mm-hmm.
close in the comics. But as far as the moment itself, like it was really just to promote the Marvels, and it worked because what they did was they introduced mutants, and then they gave us this, and it's like, oh, okay, wait, hold on. So she's a mutant, she's connecting to Captain Marvel. That must mean that this is the first imprint of the mutants is going to be in the Marvels movie. And so I think that it was just good marketing. Brie Larson, definitely that suit. I don't think I think it's just kind of like a natural suit. I don't think it's her final suit that's gonna be for it. If it is, then it's fine. Um, but this moment on top of the mutant moment that we're about to talk about leads me to a very interesting theory, something that happens to Captain Marvel that's connected to mutants later on, which I'll get into that theory later on because that's jumping the gun. But it was cool. I mean, I'm glad that they gave them a good cameo. I'm glad that from a show standpoint they gave her something. You know what I'm saying? Like at least they had enough to give her this because I was kind of like, where did this come from? But yeah, it's interesting.
No, yeah, this one I thought it was good. And I obviously I talked to you guys beforehand. So I've never read the comic book. This was completely new to me. So I was very confused with the whole swapping places piece. And I think that will be something that hopefully they explain. Obviously in Miss Marvel, I think that'd be a good introduction. Something that, I was thinking afterwards was, if she did swap places, how neat would it be in a sense if that's how she meets like Nick Fury, up, in the spaceship or something with all the scrolls and all that. And they're kind of like, who are you type of stuff. And
Right.
then, obviously they bring her back to Earth, all that fun stuff. But I think you know, this end credit scene, like I really enjoyed it. And oddly, it got me very excited for the Marvels. Like it's been the only one that I'm literally like, oh, like this is actually gonna be cool. Like I'm with it. Um, the only cameo that I honestly thought, the one you just said, Sam, got me thinking. But the one that I thought that they were gonna sneak in there would have been Ant-Man,
Mm,
because when she was in the train station, there was like a little image of Ant-Man, like that was graffitied on the wall.
mm-hmm.
So I thought that was gonna be like, a teaser of, Ant-Man in some shape, way, or form.
Mm-hmm.
Um, but no, yeah, I thought overall, I thought this was really good, and it actually, for once, I would say, got me like really excited for the next movie, and how this all is connected. So I will say that. So
Yeah.
going from there, let's just we're gonna end it here, and there's nothing else to talk about. Nah, so let's bring up the elephant in the room, which is, last few seconds when good old, there we go. Yeah, Bruno does the whole like a mutation. What do you guys think about this? And I know both of you guys are itching at it, so I will let whichever one of you guys wants to start this off, because I think this opens up so much. And I'm just excited to hear what you guys have to say about this.
Excellent. Go ahead, Mike.
So first of all, this is the second time we gotten a 97 reference of the X-Men theme. Makes me even more excited as a score fan. If they have the new X-Men like with the remix master version of the X-Men theme song, I'm like I cannot wait for it. I cannot wait for it. Right? Cause I'm a sucker for scores, and if you do it right, I was like, because like they did that with Spider-Man. They had the traditional, Spider-Man theme song in there in the new home in the Homecoming run when they were doing that. So I'm like, all right, cool. Because now this is like the Marvel version of X-Men, but this is the first reference in the 616 universe that we got of mutants. Yes, we got it in the 818 universe with Professor Xavier in Multiverse of Madness and stuff,
Yeah.
but that's close. But this is the main MCU timeline. This is the first reference we're getting. Now, I see a lot of people upset about this because some people, I'm not gonna mention any name, Grace Randolph, but the point is, she was like
Hmm.
concerned that, hey, let her, don't make her X-Men or anything like that. Which no, that's not gonna be the case. What I think is gonna be is that she can just gonna be as a MacGuffin of terms. Okay, well, listen, Inhumans were like might have been pushed, but now like, hey, we're gonna bring the X-Men in as connection for her to bring the other X-Men in. I'm not saying that she's going to be an X-Men, no. Um but it'll put her in a position, hopefully, if they do other X-Men storylines, that hey, she's a fan of Captain Marvel. Let's say if they do Avengers versus X-Men. Well, hey, I'm a lover of Captain Marvel who's a member of the Avengers, but I'm also a mutant. And
Yep.
so, and as a person, that might be a good, center character if they do that. If they do that type of storyline, but what it is, it leads to more questions. Is saying, okay, is this now saying that is mutation a thing that already been happening, or it's just been happening because of post Endgame? Um, that's some things that I'm a little wondering because we know Bruno is going to Caltech, and I know what Kevin Feige has been talking about is that hey, that a lot of folks, a lot of heroes are in New York, so maybe he wants to spread them out. So maybe the X mention is not in New York, it might be in Cali, maybe but the fact that a high school kid discovered mutation, not a professor, that left me scratching my head. But whatever. Now, what one thing about this thing is that her powers, it is within her, but she's connected to a particular device or artifact, right? Just like you look at certain characters like Magic, who was Colossus' sister, who was also the character played by Anna Taylor from in New Mutants, in that movie that nobody really remember. She has a sword that's connected to a different, dimension, whatever like that. But she's still a mutant, but she connected to magic, right? Um, Scarlet Witch, she's a witch, but she's also a mutant and other abilities, stuff like that. So that's the thing I think is differentiate from her character. But yeah, but this also telling you that a lot of rumors, people said they're gonna bring in the Inhumans like Black Bolt and all this stuff like that. Apparently, Kevin Feige said, "Nah, we good." So, um, yeah. So I'm very excited what they're gonna do with terms of opening that door again, leaving more questions. To be um for me to seek for, but in a way, it gives me things or it gave me something to nibble on and gave me actually making me excited for the Marvels. 'Cause at first, I really wasn't. Only two characters I was excited for, and none of them was the main character.
Right.
Unfortunately.
It's true.
So
That's freaking true.
yeah,
Really quick question, Mike, because I don't know this. Is Monica Rambeau, she's not a mutant, right?
no, she. So what happened was
She's
her
got
DNA.
cosmic, yeah.
Now her DNA was transformed because she was pushed through the hex, right,
Hmm.
with light and everything. Now,
Yes.
one thing that will make Miss Marvel relatable is the fact that mutants, they get their ability through puberty and
Yep.
through traumatic experience. Now, different from Miss Marvel, now she's a teenager, whatever. That makes sense that hey, she's developing teens, so she got no puberty, whatever it might be. Now, Monica, her mom died. Trauma. Hey, dealing with the traumatic experience and all of the things, going through being pushed through a hex and multiple reality and all this stuff like that by a witch and stuff. Yeah, that could change your DNA, which could lead to a mutation. So that could be something they might want to do on her, making her a mutant. But I think that's going to be a lot of folks are going to be scratching their head if they're X-Men fans. Like, hey, that's not how it works. Like
Mhm.
we want these to be born. You need to be born this way. Not just like going through something and then all of a sudden like, oh, now you're a mutant. Uh,
Yeah.
so yeah,
Yeah. So for me, with the whole mutant thing, and oh my gosh, using the X-Men theme and the way they did it, because they did it so simplistically. Like Bruno was kind of like, "Yo, I gotta talk to you real quick." He's like, "What's going on?" Like, yeah, I kind of looked at your DNA and like, yeah, the bangle gives you these other things of being able to use the projectiles and the shield and stuff like that. But and this is why I loved it so much, because it was earned. Like from
Thank
the
you.
very beginning of the
Yes.
episode, the very first episode, he was kind of like, "This ain't the bangle, this is you." And I was like, "Wait, what?" And so again, I had to read up on Kamala later on, and I was like, "Wait, she's Inhuman. Okay, she's a Jinn and she's Inhuman." Then when they did this, I was like, it works for the MCU because they actually allowed it to be earned. We saw her lineage. You know what I'm saying? We seen her like go back into the past and get to the point that we are right here. And they added a different level to it. And I was kind of like, this is so freaking dope of introducing the mutants in this way, even though it should have been done in the past. It's just more of a thing like I'm satisfied that they're finally allowing the mutants to be a thing and that Kevin Feige isn't like having a noose on it. Maybe this was his plan all along because he needed somewhere to put the mutants at. But it's just weird because when you go back to Doctor Strange, right? They never say that Xavier is a mutant. They never mention
They didn't
anything
mention
about the
mutants. You
X-Men
just
or
knew who he
mutants or
was.
anything.
Right.
Right? We as comic book fans, not normal people, comic book fans, we know who Black Bolt is. We know he's a human. We know who Professor Xavier is. But general audience people have no idea. They're like, oh, this is the Illuminati. What does that mean? Because easily Kevin could have done like specifically for Wanda, okay, I don't have children, but I have family.
Plain.
You know what I mean? Like I've got like a dad, I've got a sister, and I've got a mutation, and I need to figure out what that is. That's my next thing, as opposed to just randomly dying. But with this is something that I'm hoping for. I've got a theory and I'm hoping for something. I hope that eventually the bangle isn't something that she needs to metamorphosize her body. I hope that in the Marvels movie that at some point she just doesn't have the bangle on her and she doesn't have it in her at all, and she just all of a sudden she realizes that, oh wow, I can actually do this with my body, even though I can't put shields up, I can't do this, but I can do things with my body without the bangle. That's what I was waiting, honestly, from the beginning, because I was like, why give her these cosmic powers? I know you want to tie this into Captain Marvel, but it just came off so weird and cringy, and that was one of the things I didn't like. It deflated the show for me when I saw her using these cosmic kind of abilities and stuff like that. I was like, the bangle shouldn't be used like that. And so I was like, what if now that she does have a mutation that she doesn't need the bangle to metamorphosize her body? I think that would be the next thing that I would do for a character in the Marvels movie because they'll have the budget for it. And also, I think that it will make people be like, oh, okay, I'll forgive y'all for doing this because you course corrected. Because a lot of people just off the principle and her powers were different wanted to be like, nah, I'm not with this. You don't care about the character. And then my final thing is them changing her to be a mutant versus an Inhuman. From the comic purist in me, I think that was wrong.
Right.
The comic purist in me, I don't think you should change who she is. You already didn't market her well. You already left a lot of things to be looked down upon with the powers. And then to make us happy, you bring mutants to the fray, but then you forsake Inhumans. Because there are people that really are rooting for Inhumans show and an Inhumans movie. And you just said, "What?" Now I don't know. There's a lot of interpretations. Some people on Twitter was like, "Oh wow, they're taking Inhumans first before they do mutants." That's what somebody else's interpretation was. And then everybody else, the general people, because they use the X-Men theme, interpreted as she's a mutant only. So I don't know. How do you guys interpret it? Do you think that they're playing the cards to sway us, and she's just going to be an Inhuman, or do you think that they're full fledged going to change her backstory to be a mutant to satiate our expectations going into the X-Men?
That's actually a good one. And I will speak for someone who is not comic book heavy. I did not think about it that much. So for me, like, I just appreciated the basically what you said, the simplicity of like you have this X-Men theme song in the background, which as soon as like anyone who, as soon as you hear that, you're just like, oh. And then as soon as you kind of hear Bruno, and it wasn't like a forced thing. It was just like a small little tidbit, and you just kind of like your brain just goes. So for me, it was more the simplicity of it. And I love when something's not forced and it's not like spoon fed to you. So they could go either way, from what I see. I think by just using the word mutant, because I remember back before the whole like, acquisition happened, like they were never allowed to say mutant, and that was like a big no-no. So I don't know if it was just them saying like, oh, your DNA has some type of mutation, like just kind of the way of solidifying like we're in a new era and we're gonna bring, you're gonna get a new Wolverine finally, you know.
Right.
So
Right.
that's kind of what intrigued me the most. And then just, I mean, anyone like everyone loves X-Men. Like you just and everyone's been dying to see. I don't want to say X-Men done right because that sounds wrong, but it's like everyone's been kind of dying to see like X-Men in this Marvel universe. Like I'm so excited for that. Like genuinely excited.
But here's the thing though. You just said that, but you know, the fact that you have in this big property, they can set you have a property that you can set up to make over not just three X-Men trilogy, like a X-Men trilogy. You can make several different shows on one particular character. You can make a New Mutants Disney Plus series, which I think is a better format for the New Mutants storyline than the movie that they did, and make it some type of Saved by the Bell thing. We can make you can make a Psylocke series. You can make a series on or Magneto, or talking about Genosha, and talking about that. Like, you have material that sets you up for the next 10 to 15 years if you do it right. It's not like you don't make it as a one-hit wonder. Oh, okay, now 3 movies are done. Like, no. And that's the thing, is that they need to know and I believe and this is Kevin Feige started with the X-Men. I want everybody remember that. He started with the X-Men back in early early 90s, I mean late 90s, when he
Yeah.
started with the first original X-Men in 20th Century Fox with Bryan Singer, right? And I'm thinking the fact that he saw the inception of the entire Marvel universe with that and Spider-Man and everything, he knows that, hey, we have the ability now to have them done right, accurately, and not just give them fan service, but to also stretch this material that we didn't have the ability to do maybe 5 or 10 years ago, but now we can do now. And I know the fact that if we fail, there's gonna be huge ramifications on this. Like, not having accurate Storm. What I mean by accurate Storm, in terms of her character, her personality, not just how she looks. Having an accurate Cyclops, not just as a side character, but as a leader. Having other characters like, hey, representation. Like, there's gay characters and a lot of gay characters in X-Men. You don't need to change, other characters, just make them be like, hey, you have them. A
Yeah.
lot of your female characters, most of your female characters in Marvel are in the X-Men. Make an accurate Rogue that can fly and got her powers from Captain Marvel just by
Ooh.
touching her, right?
Ooh.
Exactly. Connection, ladies and gentlemen.
Ooh. This
Yes.
man's
Yes.
He's
mic
thought
is
about
on
it a
10,
little
you
bit.
guys.
He's thought
Mic is on
bit.
10. Oh man. So y'all want to hear my theory though?
I do. I'm very intrigued.
So I'm gonna do it like this. Hold on, I'm gonna pull up a picture because
Okay.
I think that Mike knows what I'm gonna do with this. Um, let's
Make
see
sure
if
you
I
hit the
can.
subscribe button, hit the notification bell on your way out, y'all.
Right,
Yeah.
right. Please do that, you guys. I'd really appreciate it. So there is a character in the X-Men that has a very intimate relationship with Captain Marvel. And what would be fascinating to me is if whatever happens in the Marvels movie, whatever it happens, right? we get to a point that we start to realize, oh, okay, Kamala's like, oh wow, I mutation. What if there are others like me, right? Once we all know Xavier, once he identifies somebody as a mutant, he's gonna want to help. He's It's literally a school for the gifted, right? For kids. So Kamala would be on his radar, right? Immediately, as soon as she starts to do stuff. But what would be very fascinating is if he sends somebody to go and get her. And at that time, she's kind of with Captain Marvel, and you have this other character in Rogue. Rogue's powers come from Captain Marvel. And I feel like that would be some of the dopest ways to introduce the X-Men into the fray, because everybody would identify, know who Rogue is, but never like this, because we've never seen Rogue at her full capacity.
At her full
ever.
potential.
We've never seen it, right? And so, I mean, I might be saying this and this never happens, but it would be a slam dunk if they didn't have Rogue be the trade-off in that Marvel's movie going into, because I feel like the moment that they decided to make Kamala a mutant and not an Inhuman, that led me to believe that they wanted to use Captain Marvel to maneuver first into the mutants. Because I was like, well, wait, this is so weird. Doctor Strange has an Inhuman. They've got a, Fantastic Four. They've got, Professor Xavier, but they don't have those definitions. These are just their names. They don't have like Inhuman. They don't have Fantastic Four. They don't have X-Men yet. So this would be a very interesting segue to do it. And that's my theory. That's my small little theories. I think that they're gonna use Rogue to, bring us over that way. And I just gave a random scenario. I could be completely wrong.
It's like, go back to the moments of like, okay, all those small things that pre-Endgame that we all liked, like, Ant-Man on top of Hawkeye's arrow, Captain America lifting Mjolnir, what was it? I'm trying to think of like moments like from comics that like everyone's been waiting for, but it was in character, right? And I'm like, everybody knows, like, that's the whole thing with the X-Men, the fact they were nerfed. We didn't get accurate X-Men, so I'm like, yay, hey, let them. You're gonna introduce them individually, whatever. It made sense because of like Rogue, getting that, having an accurate Rogue, in the MCU. But again, you're right. They're not established. There's no X-Men team yet, which that's the only thing I'm kind of like scratching my head on, because we thought there was gonna be some multiversal applications to this. Hey, they're just another, like, to introduce an entire race of people, not a team, a race. It's like, how are you going to do that on a massive scale? So I think that's what they're going in the two. I don't think it's a coincidence that this show, the finale, is 2 weeks prior to Comic-Con. I know we got this. I know we got D23, which I think D23 could give us more answers on that than really Comic-Con, my personal opinion. But yeah, I just don't think it's a coincidence that this show ended right prior to Comic-Con. But at the same time, because of it hindered because of the shows that premiered around it, like Obi-Wan, The Boys, like Stranger Things. It's just a shame. But yeah, that to me, it's just like those moments. That was not that it's just fan service. It just added to more of the storyline that you guys already have. You have Captain Marvel. You make her established, and to have that moment with them with these two characters. Come on, I don't see how many. Nobody will not want that.
Right. It's all right, Jorge. I know it might be completely over your head, but I just put a random theory out.
I am all for this, because I do think that could almost be a perfect like end credit scene for the Marvels. However the Marvels go, like this movie, but just introducing Rogue in that format, I think that would be almost like your big pop. No matter how the movie is, no matter how it goes, it could be mediocre, which I don't think it will, but let's just say it's mediocre. You throw Rogue in there at the end, and just like, oh, fancy seeing you again or something, and you just get that glimpse. Doesn't even have to, she doesn't have to wear like the little X and symbol or anything, but just seeing the hair, seeing like just that, and just seeing her turn around, like, like I'm getting goosebumps just thinking about like that experience in the theater, like
Right.
the reaction that you would get, like the amount of buzz that that would create would be like unreal.
Right.
Um,
Yeah, because
yeah,
if they go the route of like specifically the cartoon and like the moment that this kind of actually happens, um, Captain Marvel goes into a coma for years. Like she's out of commission. And so I could see like the Avengers being like, "Yo, that's a retaliation. We got to take countermeasures with this. They just took Captain Marvel out. No, we're not going to let that stand." So yeah, I don't know. I'm just spitballing, and they did a good job of two end credit scenes. They haven't done end credit scenes like this in a very long time to
Yeah,
me.
very long time. That's
That leave you wanting to be like hopeful, like, oh wow, this could lead to some craziness. It's gonna lead to some craziness. I think that's not could, it's will. So yeah, yeah.
man, this could also lead, which would be super cool. And I'm thinking like 10 movies down the line. But can you imagine like a Wolverine and Spider-Man movie?
Ooh,
I mean, listen, it's like even then, I'm like with her character, like with Miss Marvel, because then she's not, screw Young Avengers. Like she's also part of a team called the Champions with Miles Morales and Nova, and we already know they're gonna have a Nova series project, whether it's a movie or series, that's coming, whether it was Richard Rider or with the other I forgot the other one name, but that the younger version, that's with Kamala Khan and Miles Morales, just in a team, just the three of them together. Um, and I think they even hinted at like a possible relationship with Miles Morales and Kamala Khan, possibly. But yeah, but that's just another thing. Like you put her in the characters that be relatable, to her, and again, that serves the story. It's just like you made me care about where she can go next. And to me, when you do that as a show, you won. You know,
you know what they did too? That I know it's gonna sound really cheesy and cliche. They didn't have Kamala kissing all up on everybody. You know what I'm saying? Like I hate to say it like this, but a lot of these YA and like you know teen drama things. Like she's like, "Oh, I kissed this boy. Oh, I kissed this boy." She ain't kiss nobody. She got feelings. Like she's playing some interesting cards here or there, but she ain't kissing on nobody. She didn't commit to anybody. She still stayed
I'm
focused to
glad.
her
I'm so glad they
family
did that.
and to the mission. You know what I'm saying? Even down to when she could have had this moment with I forgot his name,
Cameron.
Cameron.
Yeah.
She opted not to tell him the truth, which is more important than just a random fling moment. So I know it's a small thing, but I like that this show had enough tact to do it that way.
Yeah.
Nope, I agree. I agree. And something we didn't talk about at all was that one scene when her and Cameron were holding hands, how you
Mm-hmm.
almost saw like a new color, kind of like coming out from both of them when she was
Yep,
holding. I don't know if you guys noticed that or not.
I did.
Yeah, and that was something that will be interesting. But no, it's I know we're hitting that hour mark, so obviously, let's just do quick closing remarks, or even like wish list items, like what overall, like Sam, what do you envision, the next little bit with this? Do you think this will end up getting the traction that it deserves, now that the series is over? Do you think it'll actually bring people back to watch it before the Marvels comes out? Like, how do you think that they can make this more, I guess, just hit at a better time? Because I think this, yeah, like this kind of fell into that. You just had too much coming out around this time for it
Mm-hmm.
to really be successful. Do you think, like, at Comic-Con, do you think that they'll kind of bring this up with all the buzz it's getting with these, like this final episode? Do you think that'll be enough to kind of kick this almost into like a rewatch, like 2 weeks later type of stuff? Like everyone's rewatching it again.
Yeah. So as it stands right now, if Comic Con wasn't a thing or coming up, this show wouldn't get any traction at all. Like it came out during the time with the boys was going on. It came out during the time of Stranger Things. And it came off of while Obi-Wan is still going on.
Yeah.
It was forgotten, unfortunately. I feel like Marvel has to, because She-Hulk comes out August 17th, I believe.
Yeah.
They've been filming the Marvels for a while.
They got
So
enough for a trailer.
so if they're smart, they bring Nick Fury out randomly, and he's in the trailer. He sees Kamala, like, "Who are you?" And then all of a sudden it goes from there. I think that that's a perfect springboard to bring people back, because then it's like between now and August, you have time to go back and
Yeah.
rewatch some of these episodes. That's the only thing that they can really do to add traction to this show, because they didn't market it well, and I think it's deserving of such. And I don't think they're going to get it from word of mouth. There's too many other good shows and other things that are still going in flux. But come next week, if they do it right, this could be, the talk of the town, and people will be like, "Oh wow, I really need to go back because these characters are important." You know what I mean? I think if they can find a way of finding importance with this, I think the volume is going to expand, and it's gonna do its own thing. I think it's coming out actually around the same time, 2023. So they'll definitely do a teaser trailer at the very least, or maybe a first look or something like that. I don't really know. But yeah, no, I think the show was great, man. It was way better than I thought it could be. I think as a credit to Amon, as a credit to the directors, and I think the simplicity of the way that the story was written. I agree with Mike. If this was threaded out a little bit longer, it could have been a little bit better, maybe. But even with the rushed ending, it's still leaps and bounds better than the rest of better than the rest of the other stuff. Because what I start doing now is I'm kind of looking at this like, how does this compare to some of the best, you know, Marvel shows that in the past, like stuff on Netflix? How does that compare with this? You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
And it fits in its own little pocket there, which is interesting. Um, but I think, yeah, with taking time with this, I think that it's very important. I think that the family aspect of this is so vital. It's so vital. But yeah, yeah, that's my that's my
All right.
last spiel on that.
How about you, Mike? What are your final thoughts?
Yeah. Not to echo basically everything what Sam was saying. It's just like I just hope that people know when they go back and watch this, you know, again, this this repeat factor. I think we have time to actually let this show sit in, sink in, and realize like no, compared to all the other ones, and here now is like no, this has had some rewatchable value to it, um, and also hopefully leaves a template of showing. Even though I understand numbers, speaks all, but if Marvel really understand what they're doing here, they actually take a good look at this show and what worked as not of the character, but just as a Disney Plus show from Marvel, compared to what they have done. I'm telling you, they put themselves in a position to moving forward all the other things that they announced. Agatha, Marvel Zombies, X-Men 97 animated series is coming out. All these other things that's coming out like later. Hopefully, you learn from this show that we can move from things we're not when we were really just recently just talking like this is going down a slow decline. This is a small, trajectory up to the right direction, and hopefully you
Glimmer
want
of
to keep
hope.
that, you know, you want to keep that momentum. Pay attention. But yeah,
No, that's good. That's good. Now, I will say before we kind of cut it off. As always, like we want to make sure we are chatting with you guys as much as possible. So definitely drop down comments on this. Let us know what you guys thought. Like who were some of your favorite characters or favorite moments. Let's definitely make this a conversation in the comments box. But before we head out, definitely, Mike, where can people find you? Blast all your stuff out, man.
hmm yeah, you can find me on the Jedi Mike 7 YouTube channel, Jedi Mike 7 right here. Reviews, news, and truth. I had a ton of content to be coming up soon. I already have posted up there. But also, you'll find me here on this channel as well. It's a pleasure always. Make sure you got to the subscribe button, hit notification bell on your way out. Peace. Till next time.
I love it. I love it. And then, as always, Sam, fearless leader, where can people find you, man?
Right here. Nah, we got a couple different things going on. We got the Old Man episode 6. We're about to do a discussion on. Me and Mike, we did our review already for Westworld's upcoming episode that you guys do
It's
not.
back. It's
You
back.
do not want to miss
It's
the
back.
4th episode. Like if you guys have been like on the fence about Westworld season 4, just watch the first 4. That 4th episode is, oh my gosh, it's back, like Mike said. So it's some exciting things, and we're gonna be doing San Diego Comic-Con next week. So it's a very exciting time, Jorge. Very exciting
No,
time.
I love it. I love it. Well, as always, guys, it's Jorge with Team JVS. You got Sam, you got Mike. We love being here. We love you guys all the time. So definitely, smash that subscribe button, hit that like button, the subscribe, the whole 9 yards. Just show us some love so we can show you guys some love and continue doing what we do and what we love doing. But other than that, until next time, we'll see you later. Peace.
Bye bye, everyone.
Filing out the top of the I can see the skyline, 50 mile radius on my timeline.